living out a dream at the Winter Olympics.
I really focused on not allowing myself to feel like I'd accomplished anything until I was over the finish line in the end of the final. So that was really when it hit me, I would say.
Ben Ogden on ending a 50-year medal drought for U.S. men's cross-country skiing at the Games and how it meant so much to win a second silver with his good friend. Plus,
it's really been great to see everyone's reaction to it. People seem okay with the fact that we weren't forcing folks into the water when it was below freezing.
Special Olympics Vermont joins us. From their Winter Games to their annual penguin plunge into Lake Champlain, how you can get involved with the nonprofit and their athletes. It's all next on NBC5 In Depth. Thanks for joining us for NBC5 In Depth. I'm Brian Colleran. It's hard to argue that the highlight of this winter wasn't last month's Olympic Games in Italy and rooting on all our local athletes, including Vermont's own Ben Ogden. I caught up with him recently after he captured 2 silver medals in men's cross-country skiing, ending a 50-year drought on the medal podium for American men.
My expectations going in were kind of I was hopeful that it would be a more normal ski racing experience than my last Olympics in Beijing, China, which was at the height of COVID and just a really unusual experience. And I think in my reflections from that, it really just didn't feel like a ski race at any point. And I feel like, I've been ski racing my entire life and that's what I'm good at. And I think in Beijing, I lost a little bit of the sort of I lost a little bit of the edge because I just was so in awe of everything that was going on around me and just kind of caught up in the whole thing. So my goal looking at this Olympics was to try and just treat it like a ski race. And thankfully, the timing and location made that a little bit simpler.
Yeah. Did you get a sense during your qualifying times that you would be in the mix there in the individual sprint?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've been competitive in the sprints for many years or a couple of years now. But it's still, I'm not an everyday type guy. It's sort of a few things. The stars have to kind of align. The fitness has to be there, and the skis have to be good, and the tactics have to be good, and everything else. So, I certainly felt confident in terms of my abilities, but nothing was set in stone. And my goals going into the Olympics were to try and take a medal, but primarily that was focused on the team sprint. That was where I felt the biggest opportunity lied. So yeah, I mean, obviously it was gunning for the relay and the individual sprint as well, but that was kind of where my head was at.
With the individual sprint, when did you realize that you were in the mix to medal?
I mean, it's a good question. I think the way that the sprints work, for those that don't know, is you have a qualifying round and then you have a series of heats as you go, like a semifinal, quarterfinal, and a final. And for me, I've I wouldn't say struggled, but I've worked mentally on staying present and staying in the moment through the entirety of a sprint day, because it can be really easy to respond to whatever's going on and sort of consider your day finished or get satisfied or something like that. So if you get beat in a quarterfinal but still advance, I have been training myself to think of that as just a blank slate in the semifinal, and the fact that I got beat in the quarterfinal made no difference. So, and I think that it goes both ways too. So it's when the day is going well, you also have to not get complacent, not get satisfied, not get comfortable. Every race is a new battle. And for me at the Olympics this year, I was lucky enough to be in a position where the day was going really well. The qualifier was good, the quarterfinal was good, semifinal was good. So, but I really focused on not allowing myself to feel like I'd accomplished anything until I was over the finish line in the end of the final. So that was really when it hit me, I would say.
And that feeling was nothing you've ever experienced before, probably.
It was seriously intense. It was so relieving and so, I don't know, it was just so much of, I don't know, I've thought about that moment for like 4 years now, you know,
Yeah.
and I've raced on this course a lot, and I've been able to picture exactly like how it would feel, or, you know, try and put myself in that headspace during training and during other races. And it's just, you know, you think you're prepared for it, but then, yeah, when it happened, it was pretty astonishing. I mean, I had my mom up in the stands watching, and,
Yeah.
you know, I looked up and waved to her, and I took the American flag, and I just like didn't really know what to think. It was just so incredible. And then the next 24 hours that followed were just like this crazy whirlwind that was so fun. So
Did you know the history behind it? I mean, the fact that it had been 50 years and it had been, you know, Bill Koch, who's a family friend of yours, who's like backyard, was it his backyard that you skied in as a kid?
oh yeah, of course. And yeah, I was aware of the history, of course. I mean, you know, for all of my years growing up and skiing at Bill Koch's house, that was like when Bill Koch was the only American medalist at the Olympics for cross-country skiing, man or woman. So I think that like we were all like hyper aware of that, and growing up, all of us dreamed of being the one to like end the drought. And of course, in 2018, Jesse and Keegan Randall ended the drought for the greater team with their team sprint victory in Pyeongchang, which was awesome. But then ever since then, it's been like a lot of success on the women's side, and the men have still been like working their way up. And I think that, yeah, there was a lot of belief over the last few years, or the last 10 years, that like this group of guys born in 2000 or 2001, for which I'm a part of, like could be the group to end it on the men's side too. But, you know, it's like I said, you still have to have a lot of things come together on the right day. And yeah, to be able to be the one to like to get it done was just so thrilling. And I cannot wait to go home to Peru and show the medal to Bill and just talk about the good old days. And man, it's going to be great.
Yeah. Have you talked to him at all since winning the silver? Have you had a chance to connect?
Yeah, we talked on the phone. We've texted back and forth a handful of times, and we talked on the phone shortly after the silver. And man, it was awesome. I mean, he's a very quiet, reserved guy, and that's how I've known him for most of my life. But boy, on the phone, it felt like I was talking to a different person. I mean, he was so excited, and that was like probably the moment when the like importance of the achievement really hit me. You know, like just talking with Bill and hearing how proud he was of me and how happy he was that another medal is going to come home to Vermont, and like all this stuff, and how much fun he had watching the race. Like that to me was the ultimate pat on the back after like a spectacular day. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
And having mom had to be extra special, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I got to give her a big hug afterward, and you know, she's been sort of this just like unconditional cheerleader in my life. She hasn't been heavily involved in like the nitty-gritty aspects of being a ski racer, which is exactly how I would want it. I mean, she watches the races and cheers, and you know, texts me after the good days and after the bad days, but you know, she hasn't been involved in like any of the training stuff or any of the sort of like that sort of thing, which is really cool, because I think for us to share that moment was just like really special, because neither of us felt like it was, you know, I didn't feel like she expected it of me, and I know that, you know, vice versa. So I don't know, it was just like a really special, like pure joy. Nobody was like, oh, like relieved or whatever. So it was pretty cool.
So you're on this high for like, you know, 24 hours, 36, it keeps going. And then you get the team competition with Gus. I mean, first of all, watching those exchanges, you know, gives me the heebie-jeebies. Like, how does it, like, you guys actually have a strategy, right? When you're doing the exchange?
Yeah, what's funny you should ask, actually, like, we really, our strategy for the team sprint was to just like rely on instinct, because we've done so many of them, and, you know, we knew both of us were in good shape. But the one piece of strategy that we sort of established with each other before the race started was that we were going to meet at this certain point in the tag zone, because that could be helpful. There's a lot of people. It's hard to know who's who. And that ended up being a terrible decision. I don't know if you like noticed, but every single time, one of us would come around on the outside.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden our guy, our counterpart would be on the inside, and we'd be like, oh God, I have to pass her.
You're like weaving through.
Yeah, we're like weaving through all these people, and it was just so bad. And I honestly can't believe we didn't have a crash or a broken pole or anything. But it was funny, like once the race got going, I think both of us had this thought of like, oh my God, we need to be at a different point in the tag zone. But if I'm the one to move, is he gonna find me? So we ended up just leaving it, and it worked out fine. But it was pretty intense.
And to win the silver, to win it, I mean, just what was that like?
It was, yeah. I mean, I've been saying how, like, from my perspective personally, Gus and I were rooming together for the Olympics, and I came home after the individual. And, I've known and raced with Gus for, 10 plus years. And we've been really close friends on the World Cup for the last couple of years. And, he had a tough day in the individual sprint. And I was just thinking about like our relationship and thinking about him and how much like that would mean to him and how cool it would be to do it together. Like doing all these interviews and stuff alone, it's kind of like not as fun as when you have your buddy right there. So after I got back, I was just like, man, we're going to hit that team sprint hard, and we're going to get it done for sure. And, that was like when I was still riding the high from the individual.
Yeah.
And then, as the days went on, I kind of was like, oh God, it's a bit stressful. Time to put your money where your mouth is a little bit.
Yeah.
And I was nervous before that race for sure. Because I really wanted to just get it done together. And, thankfully, everything went as well as it could have done. And, I think the last lap, Gus was the anchor. I was the first guy, and I tagged off in the best position that I could. But you saw Gus, like he was just so good and had so much energy and was just going stride for stride with the Norwegians for the last leg, and he just solidified it, which was so cool to see. And it just made the celebration that much better because he like, and I too, but we both just skied a great day, and it was really cool.
And you could tell what it meant to the two of you as he crossed the finish line. You were there, and you guys hugged it out. It was one of those moments.
Oh yeah, I mean it was spectacular, and I knew that I just knew how huge the team event was going to be for American skiing, and like from my perspective, I was psyched to just prove that like the one medal wasn't a fluke. I was really there. And for Gus's perspective, like taking home some hardware to Alaska, where there's a huge community of cross country skiers, and just helping use that to like build a platform and just like get people excited about skiing. It's just so spectacular, and couldn't have been any better.
Let me ask you, as you come back home here in a couple of weeks, do you feel like an extra responsibility to spread the sport in some way?
I wouldn't say a more responsibility than I had before.
Yeah.
I've always sort of felt an obligation to grow the sport and to try and use my energy and my like success, really. I mean, it's easy to be positive about the sport if you're in my position. I've always said that. So I do think it's an obligation to like go to ski practices, go to youth events, and just like get fired up and show the kids how much fun it can be. And, I think that less of adding to the obligation, but the medal more just adds to the platform, and I think that like, that's something I'm really excited for because I don't know. There's nothing I love more than like going to the Bill Koch Festival, for instance, which is like this 500 kids, elementary school kids, and they all go out and do a couple ski races on a weekend. And, to me, that's just so cool because ski racing is hard, and the kids are working for it, but like they're so much better because of it, and they're still having fun, and that's to me just like the best thing you can see. And I hope I can use this success and to just get more kids fired up about it, because that's what it's all about, in my opinion.
And the rest of the world's best will be in Lake Placid 2 weekends from now for their World Cup season finale, a chance to see the best in that sport here in our region. We'll be sure to be there. When we come back,
it's important to not overthink it. Just do what you're comfortable with.
advice for everyone jumping into Lake Champlain next weekend. Special Olympics Vermont joins us to talk about the postponement of their biggest fundraiser and how it's gotten even more people involved this year. That's next. More than 1,000 people will jump into Lake Champlain next week. It's all to support Special Olympics Vermont. This morning, athlete Kate Bovey and the Vice President of Mission Advancement, Kelsey Conway, sit down with us to talk about the big week they have ahead. Kate and Kelsey, thanks for joining us here this morning on NBC5 In Depth.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Let's start with the 2026 Winter Games happening the next 2 days at the Hermitage Club. How many athletes and events are we talking about here?
We have 150 athletes who will be in attendance tomorrow at the Hermitage Club. And Winter Games is 4 different sports. So we have alpine skiing, snowboarding, snowshoeing, and cross-country skiing, which Kate will be competing in. And then we have novice, intermediate, and expert levels of all 4 of those sports.
Cross-country skiing. Is that something you've done for a long time, Kate?
Yes, I come from a very athletic family, so any sport my parents can get me to try, I do.
How much training have you done leading up to these Winter Games?
We have an 8-week training session before the games.
Okay. And did you watch any of the Winter Olympics?
Yes, I did.
Tell me, what was your favorite moment? What were some of the sports you were watching there?
I loved watching the figure skating, and I loved it when Alyssa Liu won the gold medal.
That was a pretty special moment. A lot of volunteers needed for an event like this, right?
Yeah, especially Winter Games, because we need people who are on the mountain, we need people on skis, and a big volunteer role is a mountain guide, where we pair athletes with volunteers to help them kind of up and down the mountain. So the Winter Games especially is, we need significant hundreds of volunteers to come out and help.
Quick turnaround this year. It wasn't planned this way, but you've got your annual Penguin Plunge this Saturday. Has the postponement helped at all as far as signups? Like, have you seen some people who, oh, the Penguin Plunge is happening, I've got more time to fundraise, I should sign up for this?
Yeah, it's really been incredible to see. It's the first time we've postponed a plunge in the 8 years I've been here, but we've gotten most people saying, oh, I couldn't do it in February and now I can in March. So we went from under 1,000 plungers to now we're at 1,070 people registered and counting. And so it's really been great to see everyone's reaction to it. People seem okay with the fact that we weren't forcing folks into the water when it was below freezing. So it's been, the community's been really supportive, and fundraising is still ongoing, and we feel pretty good about our ability to hit our goal in the next 2 weeks.
The biggest fundraiser of the year for you all, where does that money eventually go towards?
So Penguin Plunge is our largest fundraiser. It brings in almost 40% of our operating budget. So it really goes towards events like Winter Games, Summer Games, Fall Games, our healthy athlete programs, our school programs. It really just allows us to do what we do every day for our almost 3,000 athletes across the state.
All right. Kate, you're going to be volunteering this year. You have done the plunge in the past.
Yes.
I have done the plunge in the past. Kelsey, you have done the plunge in the past.
Oh, sure.
What is your strategy for that moment of going in the water? Do you tiptoe in? Do you run in and dive? What do you think is the best strategy for people who have never experienced it before?
I think it's important to realize that there's a mental part to it too, and it's important to not overthink it. Just do what you're comfortable with.
Yeah, because the anticipation. Some years it's really cold out there, and you're waiting for your turn, and there's that fear that comes into you.
And the cold can get to you too.
Yeah. And there's a strategy for getting out of the water once you're in, right?
It's that's what always hits me. Is you got to get out, and you got to get out fast. There are people who will go in and swim around, but I get in and go under, and then everything in my body is telling me that I need to turn around and run out, and so I do that.
And for the people who've never attended, this is a big operation at the waterfront, at the boat launch. It takes a lot of volunteers as well.
It does. It's a huge undertaking. We start planning it in July. It's tons of vendors, volunteers, just lots of little pieces that kind of go into what day we can put up tents and getting the heaters set up and getting RVs set up for volunteers and our media partners and all sorts of things like that. So it really is a big undertaking, but really once we get the plunge rolling, everything, knock on wood, goes smoothly, and people are happy, and the nicest thing is you're in that warm tent before you plunge.
That's
so
right.
that is the one benefit of plunging this way.
Kate, what's going to be your role this year as a volunteer? What will you be doing?
It's a tradition for the Chittenden Special Olympics athletes to hand the towels out.
Yes.
So that's what I'll be doing this year.
Very important role there as you're coming out of the water.
Yes.
Let's talk about the delegation you sent to Capitol Hill recently last month. What did you all share with lawmakers while you were there?
So we have the privilege every year of going to Capitol Hill with the rest of Special Olympics North America and talking to our representatives about our programming and its importance, especially as it relates to our school and health programming with which we get government funding. And we're lucky in Vermont. We have really wonderful representation who support us every year, and it's just such a fun opportunity to go and sit down with everyone and share stories. This year we had delegation members from Champlain Valley Union High School. Athletes share their stories, and administrators share their stories as well. And it's always just a really wonderful celebration of our community and what good we can do with proper funding.
Yeah, you talk about the health benefits. There are health benefits to these athletes being involved with your programs.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, 15% less likely to be diagnosed with diabetes, 31% lower rate of healthcare visits. There's, I mean, it's you get involved, you stay in an athletic mode, and it pays off.
Absolutely, yeah. Special Olympics, it offers, of course, the sport side of sports and obviously the team aspect of things that many of our athletes don't get the opportunity to experience in a traditional format. And so you've got the physical piece of that, but then also throughout all of our programs, we offer Healthy Athletes, which provides health screenings in 5 different disciplines to all of our athletes at our events, which those numbers that you just said, a lot of athletes and a lot of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities do not receive proper health care just because of how they're born. So our Healthy Athletes program really helps to make their lives better, and it's all free of charge and all volunteer led, which is really incredible.
Cross country skiing for the Winter Games. The Summer Games are coming up too, right? What will you be doing for the Summer Games, Kate?
Bocce.
Bocce.
Oh yeah.
All right. Is there a strategy to bocce?
I think the strategy is to keep your head in the game and just have fun.
Just have fun.
Bocce's a fun.
And
everyone is having fun at bocce.
Yeah.
Yes.
How can you not? Kate, Kelsey, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you. For
You're
having us.
welcome.
Appreciate it.
By the way, you can still register for the Penguin Plunge, and to learn more about the volunteer opportunities with Special Olympics Vermont, you can visit their website. When we come back, something sweet.